Hey y'all, I'm Blaine Phillips.
And I'm Phillips-LeVan.
We're married, like just a minute ago, but we've been together for 14 years.
We have a teenage daughter.
Which means she's basically an adult, right?
We're also growing a business on the side together.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Through all of that, we've learned how to improve so many aspects of our lives and show up in an amazing way.
So we decided to host a podcast to share our journey with you.
It's called Let's Do Life Together, because that's just what we want to do with you.
So if you could use some tips and tricks on how to make life a little smoother,
then you're in the right place.
Come on in and let's do life.
Well, hello. You're back. I'm back. He's back. Are you back? Are you over there?
I'm here.
Oh, good. We're all here. I'm excited. And it's spring. Spring has officially sprung, or so they say, or at least the calendar says it. Although I will say on the official first day of spring here, it was rainy and cold. But whatever it is, wherever you are, spring has arrived, which is kind of exciting. And I think something that goes hand in hand with spring is cleaning, right? People talk about spring cleaning. It's a thing. It's a thing that happens. So we decided to take that idea and create a little series this month that we're excited about. One, it's our first series, so that's kind of cool. Why not start off on episode 25? Can you believe that? With a series. And two, it's April and it's a theme and it's fun. And here we are. So for the next several episodes this month, we're going to be digging into this series of spring cleaning, but not in the way you might envision.
Right. So we're going to touch on spring cleaning, different aspects of our lives.
Yeah, because that's what we're all here to do is life together, right? So we've talked about clutter before. You can certainly spring clean your house. We would recommend it. You can go back and check our clutter episode. There's some great tips in there for where to get started. But we want to put the spring cleaning idea into other aspects of our lives. So today, let's jump right in and talk about how to spring clean your marriage. Ooh, you ready for that?
Let's do it.
And shocker of all shockers, I mean, not really. It's gonna pretty much all revolve around communicating, because that's really the key to anything in your life, especially your relationships, the people that you're closest to. You just have to talk. You have to communicate, and you have to be as open and honest as you can. So don't be surprised when we say the word communicate many times in this episode. I feel it might be coming, but let's jump right in. 5 tips that will get you to really start thinking about ways that you can spring clean your relationship and go into a new season full of bloom. Oh, pun intended. Don't laugh. Don't make fun. That's not nice. All right. You want to talk about number 1, sir?
Right, number 1. And obviously, you don't have to wait for spring or wait for the change of season to do these types of things. But it's just a prompt to let you start thinking about, hey, maybe we need to have some of these conversations.
Yeah, good point.
So 5 ways to spring clean your marriage. Number 1 is, what are you holding on to? So holding on to grudges, resentments, those little things that they do add up. So it's, we talk about little habits and compound effects and things like that, generally in a positive way, but I think they can have a negative impact as well. So if you start adding on little negative things over time and just holding on to that, it's going to feel much bigger and have a bigger negative impact. So clear those out, get it out, which means talk to your partner, talk to your person about any little resentment or grudge you might be holding on to, and just open the communication and say, this is, hey, I want to talk about these things, just so we can let go of it instead of holding on to that negativity.
I think it's kind of by nature that we keep a mental scorecard in our minds of little things that they've done, little or big. It could be big. Listen, we understand big things have happened in your life that could cause you to mistrust your partner. There are infidelities. There are major financial crises. There are big things. And there's also the little things. That joker never takes out the trash, and it would really be helpful if he did. Like, from big to little, it doesn't matter. It affects your relationship and it starts to dig and make little cracks. And if you have that mental scorecard, and I'm just going to be honest, I could be wrong, but my impression is us ladies do that a little more than the men. They seem to be able to just like let that ish go easier than other people. I mean, easier than us women. We seem to like hold on to it and bring it back like the Lord is coming and we're going to resurrect it. I don't know. But that mental scorecard's not serving you. So you got to deal with it and you got to let it go. Whether it's big or little, it's chipping away. So just if it's a conversation that you need to have and you need to say, hey, I've been holding on to this and it really bothered me and it hurt me, but I'm choosing to really work on letting it go. I'm not saying you can let it go overnight either, but making the decision to work on letting it go is powerful, and having that conversation. Chances are they don't know that you're holding on to it because they let it go. Man or woman, they probably have no idea the impact that it's having on you and on the relationship. So it's coming out in other ways. Like you're pissed off because they don't take out the trash, but so you're acting out in some other way and they're like, oh, what's going on? Like they don't even realize it. So if it's a conversation that needs to be had, have that. If it's a commitment to just letting go, because if it's a bigger issue, it might not be so easy to let go of. Or if it's something just in yourself, sometimes we just need to decide privately, like, I have really been holding on to the fact that Jason, when he shaves, can never seem to clear all the hairs off the bathroom counter. But I'm just going to let that go because I love when he shaves. So I think he's super hot and super sexy when he shaves. He might miss a few hairs. I'm going to come in. I'm going to no longer hold on to that. I'm going to clean them off and be grateful for the fact that he shaved. Moving on. We don't need to have a conversation about it. So whether you need to have a conversation or you need to figure it out on your own, take a time to look at what are you holding on to and what do you need to let go of. That's number one for cleaning up your marriage.
And I think that letting go of those things makes space for more positive things.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're all about making space over here. So number 2, the next tip we're going to give you is to have a priorities check with your partner. It's another conversation, but where are they at? Because we talk about this all the time and we all know it's true. Our seasons change. Seasons of life, they just change. They could change from week to week, from month to month, whatever it is, they change. Whether you're focusing on a project at work right now and that needs all of your attention, or your kids are in activities for the spring and so you're really focused on just keeping your head above water and making all the practices or whatever it is. But if you guys aren't in tune with each other and you're not working toward the same thing, you're not going to get there. No one's going to get there, or at least not easily. It's going to cause disruption between your relationship and your family and your whatever. Just have a conversation. Hey, babe, what's going on with you right now? Like, what in your brain do you see as your top 3, 4, whatever it is, priorities that you want to make sure that you're honoring that for them, that you're going in the same direction? We just did this last week, I think.
Yeah, and it has to be, it's not necessarily the exact same things, but it's understanding each other's priorities. And there's a point where things have to kind of align. So if it's in regards to your family priorities, well, you have to be aligned that way. But personally, one of my personal priorities might not be a shared priority, but you have to understand, all right, this is what I'm focusing on. So
yeah, that's a great point.
If my priority is finding joy, well, that's not necessarily your priority, but you need to understand, all right, I'm going to be focusing on that. And as a partner, all right, then that's where you start supporting each other. But if you don't know what the priorities are, then you can't adequately support the other person.
Right. I want to make sure that I am allowing him space and time to do that. A great example of this is when we had our conversation a week or so ago, whenever it was. And my number one priority in this season is growing my relationship with God. Like, that is my number one priority. That's not Jason's number one priority. You can reference our past episodes where we've shared our different beliefs on faith and a greater power in the universe. But he needs to know that so that he can honor that. So when I say I'm getting up early and I'm spending time building that relationship and I'm going to church and I'm doing these things, like, he knows that that is because that's a priority in my life, and he's not going to begrudge that time or not help support me in it in any way he can. So it's important to know what they're going through. If he had a big project at work, well, I likely can't help him with that project at work, but like with the actual project. But what I can do is not give him grief if he comes home later from work one day, or make sure that I'm cooking dinner when he might normally cook dinner, or whatever it is that I can free up his mental space and his time space a little bit to support that. And like he said, for families, for your relationship, you got to be on board with that stuff. Like, where are you going with your marriage? How are you parenting? Where are your finances? Those types of things, they got to align. And if you're not on the same page, it's going to cause a disruption. But personal ones aren't always going to align, but knowing them and being able to honor them with your partner is important.
And not assuming that, the last time you talked, when you said this was my priority, that is still the case.
Oh yeah, so, mine might change from Tuesday to
Thursday.
Because
it changes, and it's going to change. That's natural. Third way that you can spring clean your marriage is in regards to your partner's needs. And, maybe you've been neglecting that. So, again, it's kind of aligns with the priorities. So understanding, what does my person need right now? And it's going to change, just like everything else. Change, like the seasons. In this season, what do you need?
Yeah, so gut check time.
If one of your priorities, is health, and you need, then as your partner, I need to support you in that aspect. So
yeah, remember
not bring home, what's the pizza thing? Hot and ready, right?
Yes.
Or not.
Right. I need to support you. That totally makes me think of a couple that we recently worked with. In a coaching series, they were disconnected and they hadn't had that conversation, and we helped them figure out what they need. He was currently in a really busy season in his professional world. He was transitioning from one job to another job, but they were overlapping at the moment. He was trying to build a side business. He was just busy. He was feeling stressed. He was feeling overwhelmed, and she could feel that, and she was trying to help him, but she didn't really know because they hadn't had that conversation. And through us working with them, we just kind of got to the place where he said, you know what I really need is a focus on my food. I know that sounds crazy, but it would be really great if you could, because he was leaving the house in the mornings and he was staying out so late, trying to burn the candle at both ends, working these two jobs at the moment in this transitional period. And he was like, I just need my food prepped and ready and put in the cooler and where I can go and take it. That was an act of service for him that he really valued. And she didn't know. She was neglecting what he needed, but not on purpose. She didn't know. And we found that out. And then we were able to work with them and then help her to easily put in some menu planning and prepping practices that didn't make that a huge task for her. They just weren't on the same page, Remember that?
Yeah. And he, his brain power was consumed by everything else. So what it came down to was he just didn't need to be making those decisions about food. And I don't even know if he knew at the time that's what he needed. So not until we're talking about it, and then that came out. Okay, this is a thing. And
Yeah.
so that's why it's important to have that conversation, not say, okay, well, I need you to tell me what you need, because you might not, that your partner might not know at that moment.
That's true.
They might not have a running list of these are my needs. So checking in with this particular season and say, all right, what's going on? What are your priorities? That leads into what are the needs? How can you support your person?
I think you're right. He definitely didn't realize that he needed it until we started working together. So that's a great reminder, like Jason said, to have those conversations. But sometimes even when you have them, you aren't able to get there because you're so close with your partner and you're so close to the situation, and it's hard to have a bird's eye view of something that you're so deep in. And they were in a really big transitional season of their life, and they were in the trenches of it. So kudos to them for reaching out for help. And sometimes you might need to do that. You may need to reach out for help from an unbiased third party, a coach, a friend, a mentor, whatever that is. Work with us just like they did, but reach out for help and say, hey, we're like in the trenches over here and we can't even see it. We realize things are off, but let's get some help. So it's make sure that you're not neglecting your partner's needs. Do a check. What do they need? And are you doing that? Because you're with that person. I know you do. I want to give Jason what he needs. It makes me feel good to do that for him. It makes him happy and it makes him want to reciprocate. So I know you want the same thing. Let's roll on into number 4.
And I think this is you can transition from, that reaching out for help. So, what's your circle of influence that's having a positive impact on your life? Who are those people that can help you? Well, at the same time, that circle of influence is something that you want to take a look at and spring clean as well.
Look at you rolling right into number 4 over there. I see you. Number 4 is a check of your circle of influence, the people that are around you, your friendships, whatever.
Everything you're consuming. So we've talked about this before. It's the socials and the movies and TV and music and books and everything that you're putting in.
I see this in 2 ways, and Jason and I didn't talk about this, so I'm curious his take on it, but I see it in 2 ways. I see it in number 1, yes, all those things that you are consuming. We're talking right now specifically about your marriage. So if you are consuming things that don't build up marriages, then that starts to leach in. So if you're hanging out with your friend who is constantly griping about her husband and how everything is terrible and yada yada, and they just can't get there, like that starts to seep in. But even TV shows that you're watching, if you're watching TV shows where everything is perfect and rainbows and butterflies and they drive around on their yacht and he brings her flowers every day and it's the greatest marriage in the world, well, now you're creating these expectations that are like just impossible for your own husband or your own spouse. So I think about it in that, like, make sure that you're checking what you're bringing in. But the second way I think about it is we've probably all been there where you have spent time with someone else, or maybe it is a show or maybe something like that. But I generally think of it as spending time that your partner didn't love. Like whatever it was, your partner didn't really like. It could be a friend like a girlfriend that your partner just, they didn't love that person. They didn't like their influence that they had on you. They felt like you were different when you spent time with them. Or maybe you have a coworker that is of the opposite sex and you go to lunch a lot and your partner doesn't love it and they voiced that, but you continue to do it. Like that starts to eat away. So I think about the things that we can actively look at together and if it's negatively coming in, but then I think about honoring what they say. Like if there's people that you spend time with that your partner just doesn't really love, then you got to choose, and your partner's first, like always and forever. Like you said yes, and you said till death do us part. So your partner is first, and I'm not going to dishonor Jason by going to lunch with that coworker. I might really like that coworker and he and I jive super great. But if Jason's not comfortable with me at lunch with him, then the buck stops there.
And if there's a bad influence in your life, it's not that hard to figure out. I mean, it. So, if it's the girls' night out and it's always late and she wants to either gripe or flirt with people and get the guys to buy you drinks, things like that. Like it's, like, it could be that every time you hang out with this person, you're hungover the next morning. Well, that's probably not good for your marriage.
Yeah, we know. So it's just a reminder to check those circle of influence, those relationships. It's a good chance to just check it, spring clean it up a little bit. We're not suggesting that you get rid of friendships. You just put boundaries on things. You might love that girlfriend, but stop going out on girls' nights. Go for a breakfast date on Saturday morning. She will have to not be hungover to do that.
Right. Yep.
All right. And number 5, the last thing we want to encourage you to take a look at this spring in your marriage is your sex life. Oh, yeah. We said it.
Sexy time. Sexy
time, as it is called around here in our casa. Have a conversation. When is the last time? Okay, first of all, it's something we do. Let's not pretend. Everybody does it. And especially in your marriage and your committed relationships. Well,
hopefully you're doing it.
That's true. A good point. Hopefully you're doing it. If you're not, start there. That's your first thing to check. If you're not, start. If you are, when's the last time you talked about it? Like really talked about it? Like, how is this going? How do you feel about it? Are you being satisfied? Is it exciting? Do you want to do it? Like, how is your partner feeling in regard to your sexual relationship?
Right. Is it getting routine and kind of boring and stale, or does it feel like a chore? Like something you're checking off, or is it something you look forward to?
Yeah, because it's an exciting thing. It is. It should be. It should be an exciting thing. Trust me, I went through a season where it was not. It was not an exciting thing. It was not something that I look forward to. It was not something I wanted to do with the lights on. It was not. It was a chore for me, and that was all me. That had to do with me and how I felt about myself and the lies that I was believing in my own mind about my physical self. And I just wasn't happy in my own skin. And we had to have conversations about that, because even if it is just you, it is affecting them. They may feel that it is them, because if they're constantly initiating and you're constantly turning it down because it's you, because I didn't like the way I looked or like the way I felt, well, that still starts to impact him. Like, you can say that all day long, but at some point he's going to believe that you're turning him down. So having those open conversations and then committing to working on it, whatever it is. If you're both doing it, but it feels kind of stale, then look at ways to spice it up. And we don't have to get super in depth for you to figure that out. Write this down. GOOGLE. It's a fabulous place. Go there. Mm-hmm. Type spice it up and see what happens.
Right. Not when you're at work. Don't type
or
that
with
in.
your kids. Right. But if you need to spice things up, then do that. If you need to work on yourself and loving yourself and figuring that out, work on your health so you can feel better, then do that. But have a conversation about it. Commit to trying new things. It's not a chore. It should be great. It is great. So choose to make it great again.
And it's seasonal, like everything else. So let go of, well, we used to do it 3 times a week, and now, we're lucky for 3 times a month. Well, that's because of the season and those priorities and what's going on in your lives. You can't just assume it's going to be, one way forever. So it's just a season, like everything.
And it's the spring season. That's what we're doing. Things are in bloom. The birds are chirping. My favorite flowers are out in the world. P.S. Those are tulips. I love them very much. They're out in the world. So let's keep that bloom and that excitement going through all areas of life, starting with your marriage. So put these 5 little things into practice. Check your grudges. Are they holding you back? Figure it out. Have some conversations about it. Have a priorities check with your spouse. Check in. Make sure you know where they are, they know where you are, and you're supporting each other through that.
Make sure you understand their needs. Clean out that negative circle of influence.
And then get down on the sexy time. Yeah. I mean, what better way to finish out an in-depth, impactful conversation than a little connection? So we hope this was helpful. We hope that if it was, and you know someone that could benefit from hearing it, they'll pass it on. You can always share an episode directly to them. Just text them. Just copy this link and text it on over. And like we said, we're excited for this whole series this month. It's going to be good. I promise. So we're going to cover major areas, all the other stuff. So tune in next week. And I'm not even going to tell you what it is that we're talking about, but it's going to be a good one. So until then,